It's been a while since we've heard a spicy take from Greg Norman against the PGA Tour, but all of that could change very soon as the Australian legend's set to sit down with lawmakers in the capital and defend LIV Golf's position within the sporting world. Could he actually convince the government to step in and put an end to the drama though? Well, without further ado, let's dive straight into it and find out. First up, LIV Golf's been marred by controversy ever since its inception. Let's face it, the whole LIV Golf drama's been going on for such a long time now that it almost feels like there's no end to it. We mean, the league's been up and running for over 6 months now, and yet every single day we hear something new about how it's ruining the game. But the fact of the matter is that it's here to stay, and the sooner we get used to it, the better it'll be. After all, no one gains anything when a controversy overshadows the brilliant sport being played. That being said, the PGA Tour probably doesn't want the whole saga to die down either because, well, they've got to make a case against the Saudi League. We mean, initially, it was all about how these massive tournament purses and contracts are going to destroy the economics of the game. A few months later, though, the goalposts had moved to the whole sports washing thing, which, while it's perfectly valid, also applies to the tour itself. Why? Well, you've got to remember that the association's also got a ton of sponsors that work super closely with the Saudi government. So, even though things might look different on the surface, the two entities aren't actually all that different. On top of that, even the PGA's format is now being switched over to match Norman's ideas with Tiger Woods' elevated events thingy. As a result, there hasn't been a single day of respite for anyone within the game, and sadly, everyone's energy has been focused in all the wrong places. Up next, Greg Norman accuses the tour of stifling his progress. Now, there are a few schools of thought here. LIV supporters, for example, think that it's all an elaborate scheme from the PGA Tour to not allow this new league to spread its wings. And to be fair, with the whole suspension and official world ranking situation, you'd be hard-pressed to find an alternative argument. Those on the association's side, though, are worried about the Saudi League growing influence instead, especially with the public investment fund's money flowing in. So, they've both got valid points that you can't argue against. Of course, we all know which side Greg Norman's on, and according to him, the PGA is definitely trying to maintain its monopoly and is doing everything in its power to stifle his league's progress. As a matter of fact, he's gone as far as to reveal some of the inner workings of the tour, including their history of squashing down the competition and keeping others like the DP World Tour under control. The point is that no one else has the political influence or the financial backing to change the status quo, and without the existence of the Australians' upstart league, the sport itself wouldn't be able to progress in a positive direction. In all fairness though, LIV's pressure has kinda pushed Jay Monahan to make some massive changes to the association, including the entire format and financial structure. Oh, and then there's the antitrust lawsuit that LIV Golf members have filed against the PGA, which Norman supports wholeheartedly. As a result, he's become the frontrunner again to lead the charge alongside his players. Not to mention Norman's efforts to convince lawmakers in Washington, D.C. As we've mentioned earlier, the Aussie legend's been hard at work to make a case for his league, both on the course and off it. We mean, signing Cameron Smith, who's one of the best in the game, was a statement though, but he's decided to take things one step further and head over to Washington, D.C. for some much-needed discussion. Interestingly enough, this visit is aimed at educating the lawmakers in Capitol Hill rather than battling for the existing antitrust lawsuit. So he'll sit down with the representatives from both the Republican and the Conservative parties. Now, you might be wondering, what do these politicians have to do with the whole drama? Well, apparently, a lot. You see, over the past few decades, the PGA Tour has manufactured a ton of influence in D.C., either by lobbying or just making friends in high places. Norman, on the other hand, is seen as the new kid on the block who's just mindlessly throwing cash around. But of course, we all know how cunning the 67-year-old really is, and that's exactly why he's making the trip to educate the Congress members on LIV's business model and the tour's anti-competitive efforts. Now, whether he actually manages to sway their opinions remains to be seen. Having said that, the timing of his trip's pretty impeccable because not only will this have massive implications concerning the antitrust lawsuit, but it'll also factor in the association's own plan to copy Norman's formula. So if he's successful, he could end up killing two birds with one stone. What's more, the limelight is on LIV Golf right now. Things move fast in golf, and if you told us only a month ago that the Saudi League would be the talk of the town again, we'd probably have scoffed. Of course, we're talking about all the massive changes that the PGA Tour made under Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy's stewardship, and honestly, back then, it almost felt like there was no way back for Norman's league. After all, when your rivals got the same format, similar money, and a much better legacy, can you really compete? Probably not. As a matter of fact, people were even comparing the whole thing to what happened back in the 90s, when the tour stole the Australians' plans to launch its own World Golf Tour. With that said, the 67-year-old was always going to be wary of the fact and wasn't going to fall into the same trap again. We mean, he's been holding this grudge for decades, so there was no way he was going to just let things slide without a backup plan. Oh, and what an incredible backup plan it turned out to be, as he nabbed two of the tour's best players in Cameron Smith and Leishman in one go. Also, you've probably noticed how the LIV Invitationals have gotten more frequent because, again, they've timed it perfectly during the off-season. As a result, most golf fans are paying attention to what's happening in the breakaway league, both on and off the course. Besides, if there's a time to rally some extra support, it's right now. Following up, LIV has gotten mixed signals from lawmakers so far. Now, Norman's visit isn't the only time that Congress members have gotten involved in the drama. In fact, the matter's been politicized a lot, especially due to LIV Golf's direct connections to the Saudi government. And to be fair, it makes sense too, because at the end of the day, they do have a bad human rights record, and everyone's got the right to criticize the Australian for using that money. Take Texas Congressman Chip Roy, for example. He had a scalding take during an interview back in July that directly criticized the upstart league for bringing Saudi blood money into the country and using it to steal the PGA's talent. Oh, and he also accused LIV of having a direct goal of breaking the back of the tour. So you get how much influence and support Jay Monahan's got among the lawmakers. Also, even though there's definitely some truth to Roy's statement, you've got to remember that Norman's message from day one has been that they want to coexist rather than compete. But then again, do you actually fault the association for protecting its interests? Especially after the sheer number of golfers that the Australians nabbed right from under their noses. Having said that, not everyone's against the upstart league. As a matter of fact, former President Donald Trump's a very stout supporter, as he also hosted LIV's third event at his course in New Jersey. On top of that, the finale will also take place at Trump Doral in Miami. So, it's not like Norman doesn't have friends in high places. Finally, will this visit help Norman with the antitrust lawsuit? At the end of the day, it all comes back to the antitrust lawsuit filed against the PGA Tour. And even though many of the original filers are now backing off, including Phil Mickelson, the case seems to be going full steam ahead regardless. Plus, with Norman backing it in an official capacity now, we wouldn't expect anything less either. That said, his DC visit's definitely going to sway some opinions, especially with the Australian presenting a softer image for his league. Also, with this being the off-season in the tour, the pieces are perfectly in place for him to make his case. Besides, the Department of Justice has already opened a probe into the PGA Tour to see whether it's trying to act as an illegal monopoly. And this just feeds further credence to the 67-year-old's argument, which grows stronger with each passing day. What do you think, though? Will Norman's visit to the Capitol make any difference in the long run? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.